Here we are. I was muted. Good evening. Welcome to Politics 101. We continue to cover the issues of the day. Still at the top of the news cycle is the recent visit of the Gladstone family um, and the discussions that have been ignited by that visit, and we've been given ample coverage of that issue. 1823, is still with us. It's an entire year at the 200th anniversary of that revolt, the Demerara Slave Revolt, they call it, Demerara Slave Rebellion, the Demerara Slave Revolution, Demerara Revolution, whatever you call it. It's a significant milestone 200 years after what was one of the most brutal demonstrations of European inhumanity to Africans, man's inhumanity to man. So we are going to talk about that this evening. Lincoln Lewis is with us. So we're going to talk about. Lincoln had an interesting letter in the media a couple of days ago dealing with the question of indentureship and slavery. So these are all related issues, and we're going to continue to talk about them tonight. And of course, Lincoln Lewis is a trade unionist. And so we had sugar workers from Rosal, from Bobis. They have been staging a protest over the last couple of weeks, and they came down to town, I think yesterday or today, and moved their protest to Gawu. What's going on there? We'll get the trade union perspective from Lincoln. I smell something. First of all, these people are protesting, and nobody's calling them hooligans. Nobody is accusing them of undermining the economy. Nobody's accusing them of anti-government. They're workers who are making demands of government. But if these were public servants, or these were teachers, or policemen and women are not allowed to strike. But if they were public servants who, by and large, belong to the African Guyanese community, I'm sure the newspapers would have full of letters condemning them and all the other things. What a country we live in, and we fool ourselves. I'm telling you, in Guyana, we have been fooling ourselves for so long. Take some white people to come and to get us to start talking about slavery when we should be talking about slavery every single day. I'm proud to be a Guyanese, Yeah, very proud. It's the only civic space, the only nation state that I can call home, real home. They can throw me out of every other nation state. Can't throw me out of this place called Guyana. But my Guyanese identity has limitations. It can be taken away from me, Your Guyanese identity can be taken away from you by the state. The state grants you a piece of paper, a book called a passport, and it says you're a Guyanese citizen, and the state can take that away regardless of the fact that you're born in Guyana. We're doing education all the time here, and there are things we have to learn. You can voluntarily give up your Guyanese citizenship. You go to America, you take out the American passport. Guyana does not recognize dual citizenship for all intents and purposes. Most of you all are not Guyanese citizens because you take out your American or Canadian book. You give up your Guyana book. You're not entitled to the niceties of Guyanese citizenship anymore because Guyana does not recognize dual citizenship. That is why a whole set of the politicians had to go and give up their green card, not green card, give up their blue book and so on the other day. They can take away your Guyanese citizenship from you. But all of you who have American citizenship, British citizenship, and Barbadian citizenship, and so on, you still consider yourself Guyanese. What is your link to this Guyana? Your link is those blackface, those of you who are Africans like you who live in, that's your link to Guyana. You no longer have a citizenship link. You have a kinship link. The Indian Guyanese in oh Lord, the Indian Guyanese in Queens who take out the American citizenship, their relationship to Guyana is their kinship with their Indian brothers and sisters. Let's be factual here, eh? Let's be factual here. And these are things we have to understand because my co-ethnics, meaning African Guyanese, are the ones who are most fooled by this Guyanese thing. You know, we just hold it. Like God sent me with it, you know? And the thing that we should hold on to short shrift. And every day we get beat up because of it. Every day we get denied because of it. Every day we get condemned because of it. Our sons are shot down by the police because of it. And when people like Lincoln Lewis and me talk about it, even some black people say we are racist. But I excuse them because they genuinely don't know the difference between racism and racialism. Our detractors, they know the difference for the most part. And so when they call us racist, they're really calling us second-class citizens. And they know that we're not racist. But when they put that race thing on you, it's like the sword of Damocles that's put around your neck. And you see how we politicians just run from it. Run! When they call me racist, I confront them because I know what they mean. They mean to tell me, go to hell, shut up, accept your second-class citizenship, and don't tell black people anything about their identity. That's what they mean. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. You know, it's always nice to come and to engage in conversation. And we all bring to the conversation something, everything. Some of us are born in the country. We bring to the conversation that country perspective. Some of us are born in Georgetown, the towns, the cities, you know, and we bring a city perspective. When we were little boys, we used to pitch marble. Some of you all young people ain't over there. But you had country people that pitch the marble saw. We had what they call the tongue shot. Tongue people pitch the marble saw. When your family, they come and visit the country during during holidays, they come with the tongue, they would pitch them marble saw. That time I always a pitch away marble saw. So we are not a monolith, you know. We're not a monolith. We are diverse. We are diverse, but it is a diversity in unity. Diversity in unity. That's what we have to strive for. I love you all. Good evening, Rhonda. Good evening. Then I'm still in the house. Always. I used to go and spend my August holidays. Nowadays, they say you're going to spend your summer. I used to go and spend my August holidays in Den Amstel, and in those days, there, when you're done, spend a couple of weeks there, you go back to Buxton, you load up on jamun. They used to get a whole set of jamun tree at the back there. You go over the line top, and I go there and I saw they get house and thing at the back there, they're planting rice. But back there used to be jamun. Look, when you're done with, well, you know what jamun used to do. When jamun done with your mouth, you know, a lot of jamun in that place. And I used to love going there. My relatives there in Den Amstel, always a favorite place. Let me bring in my guest because he's getting restless. Mr. Lincoln Lewis.
Hi, David.
You used to invite. Go ahead.
I said, thanks for inviting me.
You used to pitch marble?
I hope the viewers will be happy about what I have to say.
Well,
but I'm happy that you are here.
I am sure they would be happy. You used to pitch marble?
But I do all the things them. I hear you talking about jamun now. Is everything I eat, you know. And every tree I climb. Even when you climb the what do you call it? The guinea tree in the night.
Yes.
Sometimes they tree in the night and you break, and sometimes when you believe you break a bunch, it's a bunch of marble you break.
Look, as you know, I got family in 28, and my memories of 28 is not so much the trees and so on. It's cold. When you go to 28, you go to.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about beef. You know? Yeah. It's only now you see chicken in 28, you know. Our staple meat was beef and fish, pork.
Yes.
It's only now when they come to tongue eyes us with giving it wait for to eat.
Exactly. Lincoln, let me get your opening salvo. What do you make your general comments about the visit of the Gladstone family to apologize to Guyanese for slavery and indentureship? What would you say is the largest significance of that visit?
Let me say that I have been following this issue for some time. The Gladstones, their involvement in it. I remember earlier in the year they tried to get an opposition MP in Britain to ask the Prime Minister Sunak to apologize for slavery, and that Prime Minister refused. He did not. He said, doing that will change the history of what Britain has been about all the years. A very simplistic argument. It was after that they develop a committee, a team, to campaign for reparation. Even one of the members left her job with the BBC to join this team to start trying to bring people on board, because they see slavery as a very abominable thing while their families were involved in it. Their acts can be equated to that of Buxton, Wilberforce, and others who fought against slavery. Their acts today can be equated to that. You know, I'm encouraged from the perspective that they can they see the light and they are prepared to make amends for it. We cannot say those who committed it, they are dead. Their ancestors are prepared now, some of their ancestors are prepared now to work towards redeeming the image, the family image. And not only the family image, but see how they can help the descendants of slaves in some way. Because it has affected us, not only monetarily. We have lost millions. We have lost hundreds of thousands of people went over, died, and bodies were thrown overboard. The Atlantic waters have been littered with the ancestors of the bones of our ancestors and their blood. While they may not be able to correct that, I believe that it is important that we must see them as allies. And we must see them as allies because let me tell you something, and let them and work with them, or they must work with us. We must set the agenda of what we would like to have. The Jewish community has not gone through what the African community has gone through in life. But they remember every day, they remember the Holocaust. They work to make sure that it's not being forgotten. We must make sure that this is not forgotten. In the civil rights struggle in the United States, there were whites who worked with the Black Americans. In that civil rights struggle. In every struggle, there are other races normally join. The race that is affected to pursue their aims and objectives. I believe that we should see them as a group who can join us in pursuit of what we would like to have. We shouldn't turn them away. The loudest voices that who organize the picketing at the airport, I don't believe they have our interests at heart. They understand clearly what they are about. And for that reason, we should be working as a community, as the African community, together in cohesion, and make sure that what they bring, what they have done, is a public apology, and unadulterated one. I believe that they should be, while I say they must be commended, it must be seen as the first step towards the realization of reparation for the African community.
Yeah, Brother Lincoln, you raise a very important point there, and I completely agree with you. I do not take a negative view of the visit and the apology. I think there is, it is a wake-up call, and I would like to see it as a way of bringing slavery right back into the center of our discourses of our past, our present, and our future. And you referenced the civil rights movement and the role that white liberals in particular played in the civil rights movement. But there was always a debate that while whites were welcome in the civil rights movement, there were concerns about what their presence could do. The younger activists in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Stokely Carmichael and others, objected to their presence. And their argument was that when these whites came into the movement, they brought resources that the Black organizations didn't have. And because of their resources, they, in a sense, controlled the movement, took over the movement. Dr. King had a different view. Dr. King, of course, had the view that, you have to speak to the conscience of white people. And that when you speak to the conscience of white people, they come into the struggle and they bring, of course, linkages to the power structures that you do not have on your own. And that was a debate at that time. And I think it continues to be a debate. It is not so much of the presence of the Gladstones and other such families in England and the rest of Europe and the United States and so on, but it is the role that they play. And I think the role that their presence and their intervention, the role that their intervention in will be determined by the leadership role that Black leaders and Black organizations play. Because I think if Black leaders and Black organizations play their rightful role, then the intervention by the Europeans would not seen as the driving force of the movement. Any thoughts there?
Let me say to you that this discussion about reparation, apology and reparation, is not something that is conceptualized today. It goes back to what Barney Grant said in the British Parliament already years ago, and Barney died a couple of years well, asking for this apology. Let me say to you that I made a point earlier that we set the agenda. Let them work with us.
Yes.
Not we working with them. Let them work with us. We set the agenda. Let them work with us. This is what we like to have. I take on board the considerations by people like Stokely Carmichael and others. They saw it in a certain way. All this is seen within the context of behaviors in society. And while it may be manifest in one way at that time, these things still exist today. But we cannot close the door. All we have to do is take the precautions to make sure that we don't enter an area where there will be serious pitfalls.
Serious pitfalls.
Because I tell you this, we have many leaders in the African community. But on many occasions, we don't speak with one voice. And because we don't speak with one voice, it weakens the African struggle.
Yeah.
We have to decide what you have raised there, David. It's very important. It's something that we not to gloss over, right? We need to decide which organization will be speaking on which issue, and where the policy direction for the African community will be not only conceptualized, but will be developed and finalized. We can conceptualize it in one organization, but we must decide at what level it will be refined and agreed upon. This brings me to the Ipadagy. Ipadagy basically is an umbrella organization. The government has taken away all subventions from Ipadagy. It is not, some people see it, when you talk with some people, they see it as, well, they take it away because there are some people in Ipadagy who who are politically motivated, right? As I was saying to somebody on Saturday last, politics is from the cradle to the grave. It depends on where politics will depend on where so a baby, the next baby born, or if the next baby will die, because politics determine if they will what pharmaceutical you get in the public hospital and how many doctors. This brings me to the point that when they took away the subvention, it is not because of the individuals who are there. They took it away because of for what IPADG represents as an organization. It's a Black African organization. So what they're doing is challenging the African community. Through the destruction of IPADG, it can weaken the strength of the community. And we need to look at it within that context and see how we can work towards speaking with one voice on this issue, on every issue, and do not allow the opportunity that is presented to us as a people by the Gladstones to elude us. We can't allow anybody else to speak for us. The African community has to develop its agenda, its program, and put a strategy in place for engagement.
Yeah, Lincoln, I know you participated. You participated in the event at ACDA. I think I saw you participating there. But are you satisfied? And I think you hinted at this in your comments a couple of minutes ago. Are you satisfied that there was a widespread consultation and involvement of Black organizations in this visit? And I don't want us to sound as though we are criticizing the organizers, because I think those who organize and get those people to come here, they did a tremendous job and they must be commended. But one, at least from my perspective, one could not help but notice that there was not very much involvement of the broad cross-section of the African Guyanese communities through their organizations and their leaders. Your take?
Yes, Eric, David, we need to commend the guys who are involved in this project of taking time to bring this there. I'm going to tell you this. I learned about this issue about this visit through the media.
Yeah.
It is not the African organization that brought it to my attention. And I try to insist that I be there. One of the things I saw, I had seen it from the outset as something that is closed door. And if I could see it so, why the man in the street will see. I believe that we did not have the level of consultation among the African organization and African leaders that we could have been speaking to the Gladstones across the team. The morning when I got there, I've got the impression as I speak with leaders, I got the impression that this thing is about, it's something cultural. It's a cultural program. It's a program to talk about, to deal with some issues, and not to deal with the issues that impact the well-being of the African man out there. For us to, what we didn't have is a document at the end of time that we could have presented to the Gladstones on behalf of the African community. And the Reparation Committee of Guyana would have taken guidance from to work on our behalf. We haven't that. We didn't work on it. That's what I'm saying. Now we have a number of leaders, but we speak with different voices.
Yeah.
We have different voices. But I'll tell you what, we learn from our errors.
Right.
And I hope that all of us, this is a lesson for all of us. Even me, who, while I am an African man and I speak for African people, I'm not a leader in any organization, of official leader. I believe that I will have to take more interest in getting involved with the organizations, talking with the leaders directly about issues that impact the well-being of the African community and help them to shape it.
Yes,
I believe that all of us have to take responsibility for what transpired.
Yes. And Lincoln, you're right. You and I spoke earlier today, and we were talking about how as organizations and organizers, we can share space and share platforms. You, of course, took the lead in organizing in West Berbice in Kingley the Kojo McPherson event. And you invited some of us to share that platform. I myself am involved in the movement in Buxton, and we had an event, a symposium, and we invited about 7-8 leaders and spokespersons of different persuasions, in the sense that we open up platforms to each other. And we were talking about how effective that is, that even if we don't meet every week, every month as Black organizations and Black leaders, we can open up spaces, share our spaces with each other. You want to speak a little on that, please?
Let me say to you that one of our problems is that some of us may have too many bricks in our pockets.
Yeah.
Wanting to pelt this person, that person, and so, because we may have a different opinion or a different approach to issues. I believe that we need to move from that area. We need to move from that platform. We need to work together. We need to hold hands. Well, we are all now on Politics 101. We had Sherrod earlier. We're going to remark, right? If we can give access to the varying voices in the African community, it will help tremendously in delivering messages to that community. It will help also in bringing other groups on board, letting them they'll be able to get an opportunity to understand what the problems are and how we intend to deal with them. We can't, this thing is not about David Hines. It's not about Lincoln Lewis. It is about a community. It is about a people. It is about a country. While you may say the African community, the African community is a part of this country. And whatever we do or people do to us will impact the end results in this country. And the faster we get to understand that, it will be better for governance. I believe that the time has come that we have to do that.
The time has come.
You have the let me say it to you this. Like the PNC as an organization. When you talk with some people, they tell you, the PNC can't say this, the PNC can't say that, the PNC have to look upon the results of who will vote for them, where the constituency come from, and what have you. I do not believe that even in the PNC they have done what you call, they have done basic arithmetic. I don't believe they did that.
Mm-hmm.
When you have the national census say that 29% of this country are African people, and the PNC draw its support from the African base. Okay? But the PNC get approximately 50% of the votes. Or we get 50% of the votes.
That's right.
When 40-something% of it are those people, when the PVP is 40-something% of the people in this country, they said are East Indians, and the PPP draw the vote from it. That's the PPP base. But they get about the 50%. What about, ask yourself, what about that 21%? There's a group that you call mixed people. Those people are basically Africans.
Yes, yes.
Right? And what they should be doing is fighting to hold that group together.
Yes.
Because there's a group that have become somewhat intransigent and go to other political parties. Even if you get 2% of East India, it is good. But one of the things that they fail to understand is not only about the race, it's about people's rights. It's about justice. If the East Indians are affected, or if their community is affected, then we must speak out against the injustices meted out to them. If the African community is affected, we must speak out stridently against what is being done. And if you see it in the eyes through the lens of race, you must call it for what it is. You can only be truthful, or people will only trust you when you are truthful to what you believe in, truthful in what you say to them. Don't tell me that this thing is a glass when you know fully well it's a bottle. The PNC, for instance, the politics has to be recalibrated as to how it will analyze and arrive at decisions, and how they are going to be implemented. How we want to advocate on behalf of people. Yeah. Don't run away. People don't like, I want to tell you something, saying that a woman don't like a weak man, right? People don't like weak leaders. And if you can vacillate, people will run from you.
Yeah. No, Lincoln, you raise a very important point there, and I'd like to flesh it out so that our viewers and listeners understand what you're saying. You're making the point that when rights are being trampled, consideration of vote should not influence how a political party engage that issue. If Indian people's rights are being trampled, you engage it, not because you're trying to get Indian people votes, but because it is right to engage it. If African people their rights are being trampled, you don't engage it or not engage it because you don't want to alienate Indians. I don't want to alienate Indians, so I'm not going to talk about African people rights being trampled. And what you are saying is that you must talk about it, you must engage it, you must fight against it. Not because you're looking for vote, but because it is right to do it. And often, when African people's rights are being trampled, their leaders vacillate on whether to engage because they are concerned that they may offend the other races. And I think that's a salient point you're making. And we have to shift. Now, take the Amerindian community. It is the most disadvantaged community in many ways. But if you notice the other day, when Amerindians were on, whether it's the fire, whether it's the alleged rape of the child, you found the African community standing with the Amerindian community because the Africans' rights are being trampled, and so they spot very clearly that the rights of Amerindians are being trampled upon. And I'm being frank here. It was disappointing that East Indian people did not stand with the Amerindians. And they didn't stand with the Amerindians not because I think they don't care that Amerindian rights are being trampled, but they don't want to be seen to be offending their government, one of whose members was accused. And so the East Indian community was not out there with the Amerindians. And that was really a sad commentary on our society, that we are prepared to turn the blind eye to the pain of another ethnic group because we don't want to offend politicians, or we are looking at crossover votes and all of those things. I think your point is so well taken, Lincoln Lewis. So well taken. When it comes to rights, one should not link that in any causal way to votes. Rights, when they're being trampled, those who are doing the trampling should be condemned and brought to book. I think that point you made is very, very important. Lincoln, you had a long letter in the newspaper, I think 2 or 3 days ago, because one of the outcomes of the visit by the Gladstones is this whole question of slavery and indentureship. The Gladstones, of course, were involved in both enterprises. They were more involved with slavery. We understand that they owned ships that brought the indentures, but they were structurally involved with slavery. They owned plantations and so on. Of course, when it came to indentureship, they couldn't own plantations because indentureship was not about forced plantationhood as it was with slavery. But because they were involved deeply with one and in some way with the other, and they're here, they sought to apologize to both. And I think that they expect that the society is mature enough to understand that one apology has more weight than the other apology. Apparently not. And we see some Indian activists and Indian voices, even at the level of government, are beginning to say something that I thought we had shut down. And that is that indentureship was the same as slavery. And you, along with Darren Wade and others, have publicly pushed back against it. Speak to that issue, please.
Let me tell you something. The Indian community leaders over the years have been arguing. Ravi Dev and those guys, they've been arguing that indentureship is equal to slavery. Indentureship was slave labor. Reparation at this moment here is for unpaid labor.
Yes.
Unpaid labor. And unpaid labor is slave labor.
Yeah.
Indentureship, people were paid, even if you want to say that they were not paid enough. They could have gone and they could have lived with their wife and they could have done all the things that they can do. They could have practiced their religion. And if you said they didn't pay enough, as a trade unionist, I understand that they were not, I understand in trade union language that they were not paid. You owe them so they can get back pay for something. But reparation is for unpaid labor. The slaves were not paid. So this reparation that we're talking about now is about, it was about slavery. Slavery. We can't mix them up. We shouldn't allow anybody and we shouldn't accept that from anybody. I want to tell you this, you know. Everything that we have done in this, Africans have done in this country, it is either being watered down or our contribution is being denied. Even our struggles today efforts are being made to take it away from us, to say we didn't sacrifice. We didn't make the sacrifice that would have been made. It was they who made the sacrifice. That's why, remember, there was a man who said that if Indians didn't come to this country, what would have happened? You would not have seen development.
Yes.
Forgetting that we dug these canals and built these sea walls and all these things, right? It is the same behavior that is being brought in. And I'm more. Let me tell you this. I listened to the president's address. The president was out of order in all form. He was out of order.
Yeah.
This year, when the president can take the position to tell us, to make mention of indentureship in his presentation, when fully well aware that reparation is about slavery, and seek to link both together, it tells you that it's the hidden hand and his hidden agenda.
Yeah.
Trying to water down the contribution of our forebears. No wonder these guys, how they think about the African community and the African struggle. No wonder they took that decision in the last government, was trying to put a car park on parade ground here.
Yeah.
To push us out, right? Not to really wipe out the struggles of the African people and what transpired in 1823. You know, if they put up a car park there, a big car park there, you know what would happen? We would not have had the opportunity for 2 Fridays ago to stand on that park to remind the world about the contribution and the struggles of the African people and the 1823 revolution. They could not, you know. So it's nothing, these guys are organized and they intend, regardless of the circumstances, to galvanize their program to wipe out the history of the African man in this country. We have to tell them where to get off. I am not surprised at what President Ali said. I am only more indignant about his behavior. He can conceptualize it, but when you want to play it out, tells you what manner we're dealing with. While he's talking about 1823, and he's talking about telling the world what the Gladstones must do.
Yes.
And he said the Gladstones are their own success. Estate. It is the same estate that in 2020, after they came to power, they sent the police with dogs and they flood the estate to get rid of Africa, to get rid of Guyanese. Right? You are telling me now that Gladstone must pay reparation for that, for what was done at the estate during slavery, right? What was done during indentureship. But you doing it. You are the new master. You are the new Gladstone. You are the new Gladstone doing it. All the transgressions that are being done here now, he said they must be charged posthumously. Well, we don't have to go back there. Them should be charged for the things that they're doing now. Look, what about the African? What about the ancestral lands? Address those type of things. If you believe, if Orphan Ali believe in reparation, then let me address this whole issue of ancestral land. Allow people who get paper for the land, let a mechanism be put in place for the families to take possession of the land. Where there may be, people may have occupied ancestral land, we must see how they can be, in some cases, they can be rewarded at market value for the land. Look at those type of things. Don't tell me, don't remind me about the Gladstones, because I am confident now, based on what the president has said, that he believes that the African community must not benefit from reparation.
Lincoln Lewis
here. Believe in that.
Yes.
Then his government would not have put those people at the airport. Let me tell you something. I'm not a religious man. I'm a God-fearing man. I want to tell you this. It's the Ali Jagdeo government that facilitated that picketing exercise at the airport.
Yes. Yes.
They did it.
Yes.
They provided the resources for it.
Yes.
Okay? Don't tell me about don't picket the Gladstones and cussing them. You do what you should be doing to make Africans and other Guyanese comfortable in this country.
Yes. Don't
run me off we land. It was this PPP government that bulldozed the farmlands at the back of Buxton under the guise that we're fighting crime. When the bulldozed there, they killed the mango tree, the guava tree, and everybody. Where does people have to go after? They gotta go somewhere else and buy mango. Think about what they do. These are the economic the challenges that we have.
And
the question here about collective bargaining. Look, the teachers, They don't talk to them because it's a big group of African people, public servants, the same thing. They don't talk with the Bauxite Union. Look, those people who in 2020 were terminated in BCGI, of which the government is a shareholder. A Bauxite Company Guyana Cooperative. Government is a shareholder. They robbed them hand over fist. We write this government, the Ministry of Labor, talk to this minister. Right? Talk to the minister who behaving as if he's a slave owner. Right? Give all the commitment that he's going to address it. But he find time to cuss out the leaders of the trade union rather than addressing that thing where we rob the people them. We want correct payment for them. Think about what we're doing.
Yeah. Lincoln Lewis
Look,
here
these guys. Look, the co-ops. You know why they're controlling the co-ops? Many of these co-ops have hundreds of acres of land under them, under their control of their own. But you know what they're doing now? They start to distribute those lands to their friends and families. Who are the people who are in those co-ops? In excess of 80% of those people are African people. What you're doing is stripping the African community of its wealth. And the next thing you want to tell me that the African man is a lazy man.
Lincoln, you're so right. What we saw from the president and the PPP is nothing but trying to pimp the African Guyanese situation and trying to make political mileage out of it. Because you talked about the hidden agenda and the hidden hand. And I submit to you, not because you don't know, I submit to you that that hidden agenda is they feel that if the case is made for reparations beyond the Europeans, and reparations should include the successor state, then our cries for equitable distribution of the oil resources, they don't want to link the call for reparations with the call for equitable distribution of the resources. So they're trying to put all the gaze on the Europeans to take our gaze away from them. But the Europeans did not have equitable distribution of the resources from sugar and coffee and cotton. And the PPP government is not having equitable distribution of the resources from oil and gas. The same behavior. So if as you said, if the Gladstone should be charged, these heirs should be charged. These heirs should be charged because they are engaging in slave behavior outside of formal slavery. And as the lawyers have been telling us, the Constitution of Guyana, Article 15 says that in the instance where any group is being taken advantage of, any group that feels aggrieved, the state must intervene and correct it. They have a constitutional duty to do that. Lincoln Lewis, let me ask you a question that is a little bit unrelated to what we've been talking about all night. These workers, sugar workers in Berbice, who are now being asked to go back from Blaymont and Albion to Rosal Estate, and they've taken to the streets, and they've come to Georgetown, they're picketing their own union. What's going on there? First of all, tell us the trade union narrative that's going on, the plain trade union narrative. And then what is the political narrative? Because I rather suspect that the trade union narrative is not necessarily consistent with the political narrative. But over to you.
Let me say to you that what is happening here. I've listened to the cries of these people. We have had this whole question here of they're calling for redundancy. They're calling for that money. We have had it when they closed Diamond and they carry the workers to LBI, right? When they carry the workers there, the workers were saying that during the agreement says that if you're moving me from this place to that place, after a certain mileage, I gotta get some money. Either you give me redundancy, or if I go in, you gotta pay me some money. There are two cries in this struggle here. While Rosal Kanji was closed, what they did, these people are saying, look, you pay me redundancy. If you want we work, let me start afresh, but the money too small. The money that you're paying us too small. What they are virtually saying that the wages in the sugar industry is not appropriate for them to work for. If then up the wages at Rosal, they will have to increase the wages at Lenora. They will have to do that. So and Blaymont and so forth. So they are caught the government is caught in a bind where they have to look at paying increased wages. But what is instructive about this fighting this Rosalism? If you observe, one desire for the PPP government says that they're opening Rosal because they want to put money into the economy of Region 6. It is not an economic or financial argument any longer. They want to put money in the pockets of some people that they can spend in they can move the economy. But when it's bauxite, when it's Linden, they close them down. They sell them for $1. They close Kukwani, they close Everton. You know why? Here again, he come back. Look at the crowd. Look at the group that is crying there. They are primarily East Indians. Look at what you have in Region 10, in the Bauxite Company. They are primarily African. Different treatment for different folks. It brings you back to the point. It is not about what is just and fair, but what is politically feasible for them. What is politically expedient for the government? Well, Gawu is caught there. You have to understand that Gawu is the industrial arm of the PPP. The PPP constitution makes provision that Gawu will get a seat on the central executive.
Yeah.
Right? Gawu will get a seat. But in the case of Kumal Chan, is that he run and he get a seat because he wants to increase his power. That desires inside, they can't tell you anything where you must speak or where you think. He's not no Tokmu representative on the central executive. He was elected by the people. Okay? I'm saying to you, Gao has a responsibility to represent those people, regardless of the circumstance. The people have been crying for weeks now, for more than nearly 2 weeks. I believe today make 2 weeks since they've been crying out there. Their issues need to be addressed. And I'll encourage the union, regardless of the circumstances, and its politically as political association, those people are its members. The political party is being driven by the power of those people. If as a trade union we can't do it, people will, the workers who are members will determine for us whether we're relevant or we're irrelevant.
Irrelevant. Lincoln Lewis here tonight, weighing in on a range of issues from the visit of the Gladstones right through to the 1823 revolution, to the whole issue of slavery and indentureship, and now on the trade union labor crisis, the labor crisis that is developing among sugar workers in relation to the reopening of the Rose Hall Kanji sugar estate. Lincoln, as usual, thank you very much for coming through and contributing. Your closing thoughts.
While I want to thank the viewers, I want to implore upon you that you must keep this program going. It is programs like these that need to be supported by the progressive voices out there, the people who want change. We can't sit down. They will not, the masses will not know. They will know what they would like to have, but they don't know how to do it. I want you to keep this program going, and I want them to understand that we have Village Voice Online, that you need to support the same way as you support other programs. Thank you, David, for inviting me, and I hope I'll get an invitation again.
Thank you very much for coming through, and of course, you are always invited to Politics 101. Our pitch is not a narrow pitch, it's a wide pitch. Thank you, Lincoln. And thank you all so much tonight for staying with us and staying as part of the discussion, part of the discourse. Tomorrow night we come back to continue our coverage. We're going to have Dr. Simpson De Silva tomorrow night. He should have been here last week, and there was some confusion with other events that were taking place in relation to the visit by the Gladstone family. But he will be here tomorrow. He will be here tomorrow to weigh in on the issue that we are covering this week. Thank you all so much. Thanks to all of you who continue to support Politics 101 by your presence, and those of you who have been supporting us in tangible ways. We are forever grateful. Many of you have been telling us that on this program and similar programs, Cheryl Duncan, Mark Benshop, Kadaki Amsterdam, Brother Rickford Burke, the Paul Slow program, and of course Village Voice. We were reminded there just now by Lincoln Lewis. We are told that we have been making a difference. And you know you're making a difference not only when your supporters tell you you're making a difference. You know you're making a difference when your detractors are trying to sully the objectives of your program, solid the nature of your program. They send people here every evening to make trouble. We know we're doing something useful and perhaps more than useful. It's a conversation, and conversation is part of mobilization. And mobilization is part of a plan, a plan, a plan. At the end of the day, our country has to become a space where all of its peoples, from the various groups, ethnic groups, racial groups, social groups, gender groups, where all of its people feel a sense of security. And we are saying the one-party government has proven inadequate to providing security for all of the people. No government that has 50 point something, less than 51% of the vote, should be able to tell us that they are not going to speak to the leadership that represents the other 50%. The president says he will not speak to the leader of the opposition because the leader of the opposition doesn't want to shake his hand. That is the kind of petty, infantile leadership that we are getting from this government. They didn't want to talk to Harman because Harman didn't recognize the legitimacy of their government. Now they don't want to talk to Norton because Norton not shaking their hand. What about the Constitution? What about political norms and political traditions? They are going to go straight to the people. They are going to go straight to the people. What it means is that they are going to go to the people behind the backs of their leaders, whether the people like it or not. People didn't vote for you. They don't want you to come straight to them. They vote for somebody and vote for some party. And they want that party or parties to come to them. That's why they vote them. They're their representatives. You are going to go straight to the people. Go straight to your people. And let Mr. Norton go straight to his people. And you, Mr. Norton, sit at the table. And that table has to become a permanent table where all of the representatives sit. It has to be a table where 51 must mean 51 and 49 must mean 49. 51 must not mean 100 and 49 means 0. We are in this struggle for betterment. And better must come. Better must come. Better will come. Will come. See you all tomorrow night.